Welcome to another book review, and today I am pleased with a special guest that is making her first appearance on one of these book reviews to share a book that she just recently read. This is my wife, Kassidy Lydon, and she just finished reading The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Now, this was not your first time reading The Hunger Games, was it?
No, I read it in high school for the first time. I read the book, but this time I listened to it on Audible. So I think it's still reading it.
How did the listening experience compare to reading it?
Listening to it, seemed like it was much more immersive because there's built in the voice actor. I don't know if she's called a voice actor, but narrator. She did different voices for it, so it really helped you jump between characters and envision them differently. And just she used really good emotion in her voice, so you can do that in your own mind, but it was different. I liked it though.
For those who aren't familiar with the Hunger Games, could you summarize it and like what the plot is and the characters that you follow?
Well, it's I think it would be considered a dystopian type of a novel where or like apocalyptic, to where it's the type of world that something bad happened, a war, and the government or the capital's response to that, to prevent it from happening again, was to hold an annual Hunger Games where two tributes were pulled out of the reaping to go into the Hunger Games and brutally fight to the death to get then a victor. So it's a bit gruesome, but interesting to think of a time when there's an uprising and rebellion against the powers that be, to fight for a cause and stand up against what
Stand up against a tyrannical government.
yeah. It's interesting trying to summarize something that I've been so familiar with for so many years. Most of us know the Hunger Games at this point, so we know kind of what it's about. But I like to look at the comparison of what something like that would look like in comparison to the world we live in. To if something, obviously, I don't think we would probably get to the point where we're doing a Hunger Games, killing each other off like that.
But it might.
Yeah. But it's a similar idea. Yeah, like you said, a tyrannical government or just corruption and them doing unspeakable things and thinking that it's normal, them getting to the point where that's just all they knew, but then having other people, like in the further out districts, like the further away you get from the capital or the government, the corruption, the more you can see the bigger picture of it, to see, yeah, just how cruel it could get.
Do you notice any parallels between the story and what's currently going on in society?
Yeah, kind of on that same idea of there being this corruption, this group of people in power doing unspeakable things, and they don't see anything wrong with it. There's a lot of that goes on today in a lot of different ways. But then there's a different group of people, which is the people, the good people of the story, who are just view it, and they're blown away by how it could be considered normal when they're living with so little. Like, I think about just the food situation, like in the further out districts are so impoverished, and they value the little food that they do get and they work so hard for it. And then kind of the culture shock to go into a place where they just devour, like they devour so much and then just for the pleasure of it and then make themselves throw up just so that they could intake more. Um, I think that might happen later in the series, but there's people who that's what they grew up in, and so that's the normal thing. But once you get further out and away from it, you see the different perspective. There's some people in the capital who, even though they grew up in it, can kind of take the perspective of how Katniss did and see. I think it just barely started to where Effie and Haymitch started to really realize the corruption of things, and even Cinna probably even more, to where they started to see they were in the capital and grew up in it, but they started to realize, oh, this is not good when I've been around.
What did you like most, or what do you like most about the Hunger Games? This first book specifically.
And maybe you're going to ask something more about it, like the comparison between the movies and the books. But what I really like about the Hunger Games book is because it's so descriptive on what's happening in Katniss's mind, and where you
Who's
see
the protagonist?
Yeah, yeah.
And so what you liked most about the book was being able to see the psychology of what she was thinking and feeling throughout all these moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that part was the coolest all around part. That
because you don't really get that as much in the movies.
Well, and that's where I think it's really cool. A really cool part of film is that you take a book that is so descriptive on what's going on in somebody's mind, and then you try to portray that just by acting in your mannerisms and how you're moving, because there's not a narration of what's going on in the mind in the movie. It just has to be with everything else. And so I think that they did a good job with that in the movies, but I really enjoyed more the description in the books of what was happening step by step on what was being thought about and felt and all that.
Is there anything you disliked about the Hunger Games?
I guess being a believer and reading something like that, it's grievesome to even read or listen to some like brutal deaths, and something so violent. Thankfully, as a believer, you can also take it and see an eternal perspective on it and see it just kind of in a theoretical standpoint of what something like that would look like in this dystopian world. But it's still, I think that's probably what I disliked the most, is just some of the parts to where it's very descriptive. So very descriptive on certain killings, and all of that is not that pleasant.
Oh, your overall thoughts.
What are my overall thoughts? My overall thoughts are, it's very nostalgic. It's always going to be nostalgic to me because I read it in high school right at the time that it was newly released and the movies were being made. And so it was the situation where you read the book and then you see the movie being casted and seeing all the people who are going to be playing the parts that you've been envisioning in your mind and all of that for the time of reading it. And so and we went on a field trip to see the movie. So it's a nostalgic read to me. So it's always, even though there's some violent, gruesome parts and it's not the, best thought to think of a world like that, it's still, you can see the glimmers of light in it. You can see the hope, and how even in a world that is so just uprooted to where things should be, there's still the hope of people who are grounded and see what life is really about, and they fight for it even through difficult times where they don't know how or if they're going to make it through. So it's a tale of perseverance and people believing in you even when you might not believe in yourself. Because it's, as you see in this book and throughout the series, Katniss probably believes in herself the least out of everybody around her, and is almost naive to the role that she plays in the world they live in. But everybody around her sees her as this. Even from the beginning, you can see the foreshadowing to the series of the confidence that the people around her have in the difference that she could make in their world.
That being said, would you recommend this book?
Yeah, I would recommend it. My Grammy is actually reading it with her book club, which I thought was fun. I didn't know that they were doing that, but I was reading it, listening to it on Audible, and I found you told me like, "Do you know your Grammy's reading that?" I'm like, "No." So,
Gotta
that's
join
cool.
Grammy's book club.
Yeah, Grammy's book club. So yeah, I would recommend it. I think a lot of people have seen the series, but I think even seeing it, listening to it, or reading it is a whole different experience that is, in my opinion, even better, I think, than watching. So
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today to share your thoughts on a book. And thank you guys for watching. And if you like this video, give it a like and let me know if there are any books that you would like me to read next or Kassidy to read next. And she may decide, if I can bribe her properly, she may decide to come back and review another book again. So until then, God bless, and may the odds be ever in your favor.